Born in La Crosse, Wisconsin in 1906, Edward Theodore Gein, also known as the Mad Butcher or the Butcher of Plainfield, has been one of America's most famous serial killers. His crime gained worldwide notoriety and gave the inspiration for movies like Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs. Gein's childhood can be described as a difficult one. His father was violent and unemployed alcoholic, and his mother, Augusta, was extremely misogynistic and misanthropistic, and verbally abused Edward. Augusta was a deeply religious woman, probably affected by schizophrenia, a condition that possibly led her devotion toward fanaticism, and she is believed to be, by many authors who examined Ed Gein's life, the leading contributor in Edward's spiral of craziness. Her extremism forced the family to move from the sinful city of La Crosse and to settle in a farm outside the town of Plainfield, where she isolated Edward and his older brother Henry. Edward and Henry spent most of their childhoods between school, which was the only occasion in which the two were allowed to leave the family ranch, and where Edward was bullied for his unusual mannerisms but overall succeeded as a student. Augusta punished every attempt Edward made to build friendships, condemning him to a lonely childhood, a situation that persisted all through his life, as he never got married. After Edward's father died in 1940, he and his brother became in charge of economically supporting the family. They dropped out of school to work as babysitters, and for a period of time they lived alone with Augusta. Edward and Henry's lives were maniacally controlled by their mother until Henry fell in love with a widow and is planning to move in with her and start a family. On the 16th of May, 1944, Edward and Henry were working to burn some marsh vegetation on their property when the fire spread quickly and got out of control. Firefighters were called out, but by the time the fire was extinguished, Henry disappeared. Edward called the police, reporting that his brother was missing, and when they arrived at the ranch, he was able to lead them directly to Harry's burned body. The cause of death was reported as asphyxiation with heart failure, and the death itself was ruled as an accident. Even the police and medic paralegals could not explain the bruises present on the back of Henry's head. After his mother's death, Gein's craziness began to show through. Edward preserved her room as a temple, cartoning off areas of where the house of where she used to live. The small city of Plainfield registered the fact as an oddness, but nobody was concerned. Gein sold part of his land and in 1951 started to receive a salary from the government. Thus, he did not have to work. Nevertheless, he was rarely seen in town, where he is known as Weird Ed. When Mary Hogan, a tavern owner that perfectly resembled Augusta Gein, vanished, leaving only behind a pool of blood, Edward joked that she was only spending the night at his place, and his jokes were perceived as tasteless and cruel. But nobody was suspicious of Gein, as he did not like the sight of blood and, quote, would not even go deer hunting with the other fellows in town, end quote. Gein's murders were brutal and quickly executed. Gein primarily targeted middle-aged white women, especially females that resembled Gein's mother. Gein killed from 1954 to 1957 and has taken responsibility for 2 murders. Gein didn't particularly take any souvenirs or leave any signatures. However, Gein had a particular fascination with skinning his victims and taking some of the body parts off of his victims. No criminal profile was completed before Gein was arrested. However, just 3 days after his arrest, he pleaded not guilty on the grounds of insanity. He was clinically diagnosed as a schizophrenic and declared mentally unfit to stand trial. Therefore, it wasn't until 7th of November 1968 that Ed Gein, after spending 10 years in a mental institution, he was deemed mentally competent to stand trial. That lasted 1 week, and Ed was found guilty by reason of insanity of the murder of Bernice Worden, but due to the prohibitive cost of the trial, Ed was never tried for the murder of Mary Hogan. Gein was tried with first-degree murder, but deemed mentally incapable. Ed was spared the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison at Mendota State Hospital, where he died on the 26th of July, 1984, suffering from respiratory failure exacerbated by stage 3 lung cancer at 77 years old. Gein was primarily disorganized, for in both of Gein's admitted murders, he left the crime scenes a filthy mess. Gein left blood on the floor in Hogan and in Worden's murders. Gein's home was found very messy, cluttered, and unkempt. Gein's murders were mission-oriented, as he seemed to only kill middle-aged white women that resembled his mother. The majority of Gein's victims were female, white, and middle-aged, many of whom physically resembled his mother. as his plan was to create a woman's suit, as if he was bringing his dead mother, or as he called it, his beloved, back into his life. Thanks for watching this train wreck of a presentation. Wasn't that great, but it's 3 in the morning, so I'm going to bed.